Hello everybody and welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Christian Skoggs and happy 4th of July everybody. If you're living in the US now, you know that our country is not in the best place. It's weird celebrating this year because truthfully, what are we celebrating? It seems as if the values that shape America's image are constantly being challenged and taken away day by day. And on top of that, we have two deeply terrible, awful candidates that want to run our country for the next 4 years. One is a dementia-stricken old man funding a genocide in the Middle East, and another is a hopeful dictator who wants to completely transform the country into a fascist Christian hellscape, and he also wants to continue funding that genocide. I imagine Biden is probably who I'll end up voting for if he stays in the race, just because Project 2025 sounds so terrifying to me. But a lot of what we are going through is completely unprecedented, and truthfully speaking, it's hard to remain optimistic through it all. We have a lot of work we need to do in the future to make sure our country doesn't go further into fascism than we already are, but for now, let's just sit back, enjoy the holiday, and talk about some movies that have been really good this year. I would say overall, it's been a pretty underwhelming year at the movies. A lot of the stuff I was looking forward to seeing hasn't been amazing, and I feel like a lot of the movies are really not making much of an impact. The box office is down, general enthusiasm amongst mainstream moviegoers is down, and everything this year has felt a little off. We have had some exceptional movies come out in 2024 though, so today I want to celebrate the best that cinema has had to offer us so far this year. Before we proceed, let's take a look at some of the movies I'm really looking forward to. We got movies like Maxine, Longlegs, Sing Sing, Twisters, Deadpool and Wolverine, Trap, Alien Romulus, Beetlejuice, Megalopolis, Joker Folie à Deux, Anora, Smile 2, Terrifier 3, Gladiator 2, Sonic 3, and Nosferatu. I imagine there are some Oscar contenders that will probably make a big splash later this year that I'm not recognizing, so just know that for now, those are my anticipated picks. As for what we've seen so far, let's break it all down. I really didn't know how to start this list, but I thought a lot about my number 10 spot and figured that whatever movie I put on here better be pretty exceptional. So after much deliberation, my number 10 spot goes to The First Omen. I'm not usually a fan of religious horror movies. They all feel the same to me and are typically not that scary. This one though did a great job presenting some really effective scares while also telling a really compelling story. Now, I saw The Omen for the first time recently in preparation for this movie. I wasn't a huge fan of it personally, but I can understand why it has since gained a following. This was a lot better. The story was more engaging, and the visuals they presented were psychologically scarring, to say the least. I think also having the opportunity to see this in 35mm really boosted my overall enjoyment of this movie. I think you'll have a great time regardless of if you've seen the original or not. It's on Hulu now if you haven't seen it yet. Number 9 goes to a Netflix original that I was lucky enough to have caught in the theater, and that is Hitman. Coming to us from Richard Linklater of School of Rock and Boyhood, this was a very fresh romantic comedy that had two strong leads in Glenn Powell and Adria Arjona, an unpredictable story, and a fun overall vibe that just about anybody could enjoy. It seems as if the romantic comedy is going away from theaters, so it's unfortunate that this didn't get a wider release, but the fact that this even got made at all is really all that counts. It also has really thrilling elements to it all, which further adds to its engagement value. I thought this was really great, and definitely worth your time if you haven't seen it yet. At number 8 is an A24 thriller that's really unlike anything else you'll see right now, and that is Love Lies Bleeding. On top of being a great love story, this is a riveting thriller with engaging characters and visuals to complement it. I love this film's style and overall 80s aesthetic. I love how aggressively sexy it is, and I love how dark it is. It's one of those movies to me that seemingly takes place in a fantasy world that our two leads are inhabiting while they maintain their love for each other and shield themselves away from the dangers of the outside world. I feel like this one is more likely to appeal to a niche crowd, so I wouldn't be surprised if not many of you have seen it yet, but with that being said, it's definitely worth your time. Coming in at number 7 is a film by one of our finest filmmakers working today, and that is Yorgos Lanthimos' Kinds of Kindness. This is an anthology film with 3 separate segments, all featuring the same cast, including the likes of Jesse Plemons, Emma Stone, Margaret Qualley, and Willem Dafoe. If you're familiar with Yorgos Lanthimos' work, you'll know that his films tend to be dry, surreal, and absurdist in nature. While each of these segments have vague themes that you can pick up from them, I've grown to accept that a lot of these segments are often just weird for the sake of being weird. Anytime a movie is willing to be this aggressively out there, my eyes are focused on it. This is a very different movie than Poor Things, which I reviewed when it came out last year, but if you're familiar with movies like The Lobster or Killing of a Sacred Deer, you'll find yourself at home with this one. Now, number 6 is a movie you're not going to want to miss. This is another one that I imagine not everyone has seen, but I think it's worth your time for sure, and that is I Saw the TV Glow. Now, I've been fascinated by the work of Jane Schonbrun for a while. Their debut film, We're All Going to the World's Fair, is an experimental and horrifying film that has some easily identifiable messages regarding social media and the relationship teens have with it. This one, though, adds an extra layer to it in that it uses media and our nostalgia to it to depict the experience of coming out as a trans person. I think what I found really incredible about this one was the way it was able to transfix you in another world with some beautifully horrifying imagery that just about anyone in the modern age can really connect with. This is one of the most visually unique films I've ever seen, as the lighting and production design is entirely embodied in the trans experience. Even the parachute in the sequence that the kids play with is literally just the trans flag. I love the use of silhouettes and neon lights that completely devour the environments that these characters inhabit. I love the way in which characters whisper to each other and the cadence in which dialogue is delivered. I also love the sequences with the Pink Opaque series that these kids watch. It's one of my favorite instances of recreating old media for the modern age. The sound, cinematography, and aspect ratio all add to this, and it's that type of show that I would genuinely love to watch in today's day and age. It's a film that has really grown on me the more I think about it, and I'm dying to see it again as soon as I can. Now, I think today was the perfect day to talk about number 5 and the potential warning it gives to Americans regarding our future, and that is Civil War. I reviewed this when it came out back in April, and I really think it stuck around with me long after its release. So much of the imagery and sound design is really haunting, and what adds to that is the likelihood of some of these images becoming real life in the near future. It's frustrating to me that people have interpreted that the cause of this war is not discussed, as I think what they mean to say is that party lines are not adequately recognized. The reality is, we understand the cause of this war. A dictatorship has broken out, and states have seceded in an effort to resist its power. It doesn't really matter what party lines this is established under, all that matters is the consequences this dictatorship and conflict have on the rest of the country. The way in which Alex Garland depicted division in a nation was very smart as to not assign any particular roles to any party or establishment. It should just be universally recognized that dictators are bad, and division amongst a nation is bad. And I think those are the most effective messages you can pick up from this film. Number 4 is an absolute banger that was not done justice at the box office, and that is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. I was surprised at first this didn't do well, as Mad Max Fury Road is a beloved action film, but I also understand that the world this film depicts is very dark and twisted, and as such is only going to attract a small crowd in comparison to your average blockbuster fare. With that being said though, I really love this one. While not being as strong as Fury Road, I found the story to be engaging and the visuals dazzling. This adds to the absolute spectacle that was Fury Road in that it really enriches the lore of that film to make the story even more effective. It's huge, it's epic, and it's exactly my type of action film. I will echo my statements in my recent video essay regarding Furiosa's performance in that I hope Mad Max The Wasteland still gets made, and that WB is able to do whatever it takes to get it made in a cost-effective way. Coming in at number 3 is Challengers. This movie rocks. I have not stopped thinking about it since it came out. I've seen it twice now, it's so good. The acting, the dialogue, the non-linear storytelling, the cinematography, everything about this movie is exceptional. I have already reviewed this on my channel, so you can look at my thoughts there, but just know that this one is really good. Number 2 feels like a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and that is Hundreds of Beavers. I think if this movie had a proper distribution rollout into theaters and was widely available to the general public, it would be one of the most talked about movies ever. This movie was impressively assembled for only $115,000, and as such is one of the most visually impressive movies I've ever seen. It goes to show how far you can go with softwares you can easily access like Adobe Premiere and After Effects. It's also just absolutely hilarious, and is one of those movies that leaves you laughing throughout the entire film. What they've done here is nothing short of remarkable. I have a full review on my channel if you want more thoughts on this one. And number 1, you knew was coming, Dune Part 2. Look, some time has passed now, so I'm not sure how much hype there still is for this one, but it's safe to say this is a remarkable achievement in sci-fi filmmaking. Dune was previously a story that was thought to be unfilmable given previous attempts, but Denis Villeneuve has proven that you can do it and do it effectively. It feels like one of those stories that you have to wait for the proper resources in order to effectively tell. This has some of the best visuals of any modern sci-fi movie out there, and I think the message is more relevant today than ever. I've seen this movie 5 times now, and I'm hoping it comes back to IMAX theaters at some point this year so I can go watch it again. I'm glad I can stream it on Max in 4K in the meantime, but it's not the same without the expanded aspect ratio sequences. It felt like the culture sort of just shifted when this movie came out, and I'm not sure how many movies today could do that. I had the same feeling watching this for the first time that I did when I first saw Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. I understand the artistic merit of these movies are vastly different, and obviously Dune 1 and 2 are far superior movies, but they all gave me that feeling of anticipation with every second and moment that unfolded. When reflecting on new IPs we could be using for new films, it's so rare that one could feel as fresh as Dune does. I still feel like I really haven't seen as much merch stem from this yet, so I'd be curious to see if that pops up at any point. While I'm sad I still don't have a Dune t-shirt yet, I guess I'll remain thankful that they haven't turned the brand into a money-printing capitalist machine. I am excited to see the sequel, which WB has confidently set to be released the same day as a new Star Wars movie, and knowing that Star Wars will probably be booted from that day signifies to me that maybe the world can heal one day. And that's all I got for today. What movies have you liked from 2024 so far, and what are you looking forward to seeing later this year? Hope you're all doing okay out there though, and until next time.